time to stay. Is there anyone or anything that would take all you got to get everything? Your heart's pumping, no stopping, like a tidal wave that keeps coming. You're running and running for something, yeah, yeah. You're gonna make it some way, somehow. No one's gonna keep you down.
Let's rock out, people. What?
Some way, somehow, no one's gonna keep you down. When you know what you're supposed to do, then go do what you gotta do. Some way, somehow, I know you can turn it around. When you know what you're supposed to do, then go do what you gotta do.
All right, what's up? Thought I'd come and hit you with a little bit of music since it is the Erskin Music Show. Figured that was a novel concept and a great idea to actually give you some music on a music show. So I want to say good morning to everybody that's out there. Sorry we're getting started a little bit late today. And we got a special guest coming on, Sabrina Jones. I think she's already at the door, so we don't want to keep her waiting too much longer. But we got to get the show started the right way. So all those who are watching on Facebook Live, appreciate you guys tuning in, joining in the show. And you guys have become quite the international audience. And so that's very impressive to me that irrespective of time zones and locations in the world, you guys are still tracking along with the Erskin Music Show. And that's a beautiful thing. For those folks who are watching us on YouTube, I don't know, Tessa. This is Tessa. Hi, Tessa. Thanks, Tessa. You guys started messaging me 15 minutes before the show came on. It's kind of like having a yard sale. I don't know if you've ever had a yard sale before. I don't know if you guys do yard sales. I don't know where you're in the world and if you do yard sales, but sometimes when you're having a yard sale and it says on the sign, the yard sale starts at 7:30, there'll be people at your house there at 7 o'clock. So that was great, Tessa. Thanks for tuning in the show. I don't really even know if you're tuning into the show. You may just be writing me comments here. So that's great. Thanks. I love it. The comment section is turned on. Want to make sure that you guys knew that. For our folks that are playing video games right now and you're listening to this in the background, continue doing what you're doing. Keep that energy. We love our folks from Twitch. I just don't understand what you guys are doing. So I always love getting comments from any platform that you guys and at any time. So there's some people who watch the show afterward. They watch it in delay. That's great. Thank you for tuning in that way and being a part of the Erskin Music Experience. And for those who are watching live right now, you are going to be in for a treat here in just a few moments. And so we have, let's make sure the Dolphins are okay. The Dolphins are okay this morning. Big Head is in the studio. Ruby and Scooby behind me. They're doing their thing. All right. So I'm just make sure I have my censorship button here. I'm not going to say anything bad today. All right. I haven't needed the censorship button in a long time. I just want to make sure everything is as it should be. And then we'll get Sabrina. She's at the doorbell, but we can't do that just yet. We don't come and give some time to Augustine this morning. All right, let's that was only annoying, but I wanted to segment this section of the show. Erskin Music Show, thank you guys for tuning in today. This is a devotion for today. It comes from Table Talk Magazine. Excuse me. We have a devotion that comes from Don Friedrichsen. German folks up in this thing. Friedrichsen, Donnie Friedrichsen. I'm getting better as I continue along. My name is Anavatarte, so don't even try to play with me. I'm not intentionally getting it wrong. I just know people get hard names wrong. Table Talk Magazine, Ministry of Ligonier Ministry, the late, great R.C. Sproul. They're continuing on to do some great things. This is a lesson this morning about prayer. And man, this show needs some prayer. A young widow wrote to the great theologian Augustine to ask how to pray. Before Augustine answered the perennial question, he addressed a more fundamental one. What manner of person should you be to pray? This underlying question is often passed over in a rush to answer the felt need. But before we really understand how, we need to look inwardly to our own hearts to form our own prayers in meaninglessness, or they're formed in meaninglessness if our hearts are not shaped by Christ. So, what type of person ought we to be to pray? Augustine argued that we ought to consider ourselves poor in this world. However prosperous we may be, we should understand that our wealth will not satisfy us. Comfort is not found in our things. We must be desirous of life found only in God. Only then can we truly pray. After addressing the central heart issue, Augustine then gave the young widow prayer advice that we might find odd. He simply advised her to pray for a happy life. By a happy life, Augustine meant a life where one has all that he or she wishes to have and wishes to have nothing which he ought not to wish. The truly happy life is a life that desires God. Psalm 27:4. One thing have I asked, Lord, one thing I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and inquire in his temple. That's Table Talk Magazine, and that's our devotion for today. I don't have the beatbox up. We're definitely not doing the car horn again. Okay, that's my own one. I'm on the ones and twos this morning. So I want to freestyle on that just really quickly there and just simply say that I think prayerlessness is epidemic. We talked about that quote from John Piper yesterday. Facebook and Twitter are going to come back to bite us because they're going to show us that we had a lot of time. We just didn't spend it praying. And so I was so motivated by that I wanted to follow up with another lesson on prayer, just for us to simply be engaged in praying. We need to pray for one another. We need to intercede. And you know, I had the opportunity to speak to the New Canaan Society in North Carolina this morning. We did a early morning devotion, 6:00 a.m. for me, 7 for them over there on the East Coast. And as I was speaking to the men, you know, it's recounting some of my story for those that don't know me. It's really quite impossible that I would be sitting where I'm sitting and doing what it is that I'm doing. There's no way that you can draw a straight line from where I was born, circumstances that I was in, to me doing this today. And it's all the circuitous and yet divine and sovereign route of the Lord. And much of that has been forged by prayer. People praying for me that I would sense God's direction. People praying for me when I would take directions and just take risks and step out and do things. And so let's keep prayer at the cornerstone of what it is that we are doing, cornerstone of our lives today. I don't know what situation you guys are facing, but my question is, have you prayed about it? I don't know what challenges you're facing today, but my question is, have you prayed about it? And have you asked others to join you in prayer? So that's what we need. All right. Habasavik, 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 Habasavik. Good morning to everybody that's watching this morning. Meg, okay. You need some prayers today? Let's be praying for Meg Habasavik. And then she'll get in contact with us later. Roy, who's over in Kansas City, says good morning. We want to say good morning to you as well. I don't want to keep my special guest waiting any longer than she already has. She's been so gracious to wait for us here. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that there's no dolphins that are harmed in the course of this show, in any of the live stream, filming, taping, or anything that we do on this show. So, excuse me. I just lost the doorbell. I can't find the door in my own house. It's Sabrina Jones. She's at the door. Let's let her in. Good morning, Sabrina. Wait a minute. You're on mute. Press a button. Do a thing. I have a mute control here, but I don't want to tap it because, you know, I would mute you. And I don't want to mute you. I want you on. So we see the wonderful Sabrina. We just don't hear the wonderful Sabrina this morning. Wave to everybody, Sabrina. This is your virtual way of saying you can hear me, obviously, but I can't hear you. Strange. You want to try to log out and then log back in? Okay, try that. You do a little troubleshooting. I was talking with some tech people yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I think I'd be a great tech person. I would tell people all the time, hey, you called in? You haven't? Okay, what's your problem? Okay. All right. Okay, so unplug it and then plug it back in. And then call me back and tell me if it works. That's pretty much the solution for surprisingly a lot of things that happen in this world with this. I've got screens up all over the place and lighting and all these different things. You'd be surprised at how often the problem can be fixed if we just turn it off, turn it back on. Somehow the universe rewires it and gets it going. And we had a little bit of lag at the beginning of our show today as we were trying to get some things on. And I didn't realize that Toby Mac thing was staying up there where I was doing other things. So anyway, that was me looking like a little druid this morning. But that is not a druid. For those of you who are wondering, in that Toby Mac video, I'm not a priest. I'm not a druid. I'm a guardian angel. And so we're sticking with that. A little bit more. Come on. That's me and Toby. Yeah, baby. That's me and Toby doing our thing. All right. Good morning, Chester. Hope you are doing well this morning. Fantastic opportunity to have Chester on the show last week, and we are still living in the afterglow of all the wonderful things that we got a chance to talk about. We were just going back and forth. We got ideas that are out there on the table. We're about to take over sidewalks all over America with comedy and music. And who knows? You may see us on Good Morning America before too much longer. They never thought that hip hop could make it this far. So there you go. So we have Sabrina Jones, who's coming back to join us here in just a few moments while we freestyle on that. Oh, man, you know what? I'm getting my freestyle. I have a feeling that Sabrina Jones is going to bring some heat today because that's what Sabrina does. And so I'm going to get my beatbox ready for all the different fresh beats that she's going to be laying down. You saw Sabrina Jones. She was waving to the people, hyped up, excited about that. No, I can't do that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, these apps, man, I'm using free apps and they try to get you. That would have been really loud on the show. Yeah, there we go. So we're ready to go. Sabrina is not at the door yet. And so I just wanted to say, for those of you who've been tuning in, sometimes people, well, I'll just thank you. I'll just go back to the comment section. You guys keep some comments rolling in here. We'll interact for just a few moments while we get Sabrina back on the line. And we'll see if we can fix that audio issue there. But thank you guys for your comments this morning. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I don't know where you're at or what it is that you guys are doing, but we're going to jump into some justice, some generous justice. And I think I put some of that in the show notes this morning. And so we're going to continue a discussion. Sabrina and I, you'll figure out how we know one another and kind of what it is that we do together. Really, she would be a fantastic guest for the weekend show. If you've not seen the weekend show, The Way Forward, or you can go back and see a backlog of that. It's my friend from Illinois. And we live in two totally different worlds, both politically, both in size of town, orientation, and there's a lot of difference on that show, but there's also a lot of similarity. And it's one of the refreshing things that I think I get a chance to do every week is to share some time with one of my friends, good friends, and talk about some of the issues. And so on that particular show, we talk about race, politics, and religion and sports. So those are the topics that we get into. And every once in a while, I like to kind of keep that going here on this show. We had the George Floyd memorial anniversary a couple of days ago. So I gave you guys some commentary on that. We talked about policing in America. And on this show, I don't know that we'll get into those topics specifically, but, you know, Sabrina is always willing to jump into the discussion. And you'll figure out why that is. And I think it's good to kind of have some representation on here. You know, it's easy to get some of the guys that are on the show, but some of the women who have been on the show, they've contributed just profoundly to the impact of the show and to the perspectives of the show. I have but one perspective of many and have shared some different things from my own insights and perspectives, but it's good to have other people who have totally different experiences that come on the show. And I think that adds to the show, gives us some life and gives us some opportunity to continue to share together. And so while Sabrina gets things squared away here, I wanted to give you guys some music because it's the Erskin music show. So let's check out some Erskin music. Actually, for those of you who are on the comment section, since I'm about to play some music, what do you want to hear? What do you want to hear? There's a song called Do What You Got to Do, which we started out with, but I was hoping that would be a smoother segue to like actually playing some things. Grace made the first move. Black and White, Made in the Image of God. Is He Worth It? Only Love remix. That kind of be my favorite this morning. King of the Mountain. Merry-Go-Round. Life Matters. All right. We're going to do a short snippet of Only Love remix. And then we're coming right back because Sabrina's at the door. So we won't keep her waiting.
A world full of darkness. Yeah, we need a light. With all of the hurting, there's no room to fight. These hands are for serving. Our love needs to move. Let's reach to each other. Oh, there's no time to lose. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Oh, 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 oh. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love is the answer to driving out hate. Yeah, love's gonna work when we give it away. Only love.
All right. We can't be doing that all day because we got Sabrina. She is back and better than ever. Let's get her on the show here quickly. All right. What say ye?
Hey, Erskin, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I had to use my phone. I was on my Mac. It didn't like Safari. I don't know. I was struggling there. Sorry about
Oh yeah, nah. Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Phone is good. Phone
Yeah.
is good for this. And actually, I don't know if this is an indictment against Mac, but their phones are much better and sharper image than what they provide on their computers. You would think if you paid thousands of dollars for the computer, you'd get a nice camera, but for some reason, Mac cameras.
Except for their phones. What do we say? What do we say?
All right. Well, first world problems that we're dealing with today.
I know.
All right, Sabrina, you're here. I put some information up about the 510 Foundation that's in the notes. Here's your banner going across the bottom of the screen. You can check this out. This is Sabrina Jones. Let's welcome Sabrina Jones to the show. Yay. Let's go.
You are so funny.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this morning. You're in Nashville?
Yes.
All right. Well, without further ado, let the folks know who you are. A doctor, an author, a speaker, all of the requisite things.
Oh, my
I would say,
goodness.
yeah, you give your own introduction because sometimes people go on with this flowery language, and I'm like, hey, all I need people to know about me is that I have a dog, 2 kids, and a wife.
Oh, no. There's so much more to you. You know that. They know that, too. They know that, too. No, yes. What do you want to know about me? Just
There's so much more, but if I started doing all that flowery language stuff,
there's no flowery language. Simple person, just like everybody else. Born in Georgia, lived in Nairobi, Kenya, 4 years of my life. My father grew up over there as a child of some career missionaries who founded a work over there through World Gospel Mission. And so when he came back to the States, got married, had 4 daughters, and then Firestone hired him to go over there and open a plant. So thus, I ended up over there for 4 years of my childhood. Came back to the States, spent 11 years of my childhood in Illinois, growing up in Illinois, and then headed to California from there for a little bit.
Oh, nice.
And
Beach Boys.
I know. I saw them in concert.
Good vibrations. Okay.
All the things. So, anyway, I met my 30 years on June the 8th, my husband in California. He was from Nashville. I worked actually for Ralph Carmichael. Some people might know Ralph Carmichael. He's one of the fathers of gospel music, all the things, more contemporary Christian music back in the day. Anyway, worked for him as a royalty accountant, and a gentleman from Nashville, Bob McKenzie, bought out the distribution part of his company and brought it back to Nashville. And my husband was hired to run the IT department for him. So anyway, that's how we met. And then I finished college, ended up moving out here. We've been married now 30 years. I don't know. Got a degree. My undergrad is in communication.
Got a degree.
Got a few of those.
Hmm.
Yes, did that. I'm an alum of Tennessee State University. Got a degree there in public.
Oh, Tennessee State. Give a shout out to the
Yes,
Tennessee State. Give a shout out.
that's right.
What is their moniker? Did they do anything?
I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know.
They have a hand signal. Is
little
it just a raised fist?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
had way too much fun doing that yesterday.
Yes. So much respect. I actually, when I first came to Nashville, I worked for a gentleman who, previous to being the chancellor of the Tennessee Department or the Tennessee Board of Regents, was the president of TSU. And his name was Otis Floyd. Anyway, wonderful man. His assistant, Galinda Smith, if I'm remembering her name correctly. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience working for him. Obviously a mover and shaker in Nashville back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But anyway, so finished my degree, ended up as a stay-at-home mom for 18 years, homeschooling my 4 children. And then I felt a calling into full-time ministry and came on board at Nashville First Church of the Nazarene. And during that process, went back to college so that I could accomplish ordination in our church. And then when I completed that, was ordained in 2015, and then felt called to enter into a doctoral program.
Mm-hmm.
Not fully understanding that. And of course, in a doctoral program, you do extensive research. And I ended up doing
Just a little bit.
Did some wonderful research. It ended up being international research,
Mm-hmm.
because part of my research took place over in Kenya within the Church of the Nazarene, but the focus was on multicultural leadership. So
Multicultural leadership.
yeah. So one of the things, they say is that when you're working at the doctoral level, obviously you should be working on something that you're closely affiliated with. And at Nashville First Church, we have several refugee congregations. There's many churches who will have one other culture maybe worshiping with them, but we have 3. We have an African congregation that's primarily Congolese.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Haitian congregation. The Haitian congregation has been with us for 14
Haitian
years.
congregation. Haitian congregation.
Yes. I'll give a shout out to the pastor, doctor. He's a medical doctor, Marumi Samuel. Outstanding. So, gentlemen. And then we have a Hispanic congregation. So then we have contemporary and
Then you have a
traditional.
Caucasian
We have
congregation as well.
American English speaking. Yes.
English speaking congregation.
Yes, each congregation speaks a different language: Swahili, Creole, Spanish, and then obviously English. And then every Sunday afternoon, starting at 3:30, we open our building to homeless to come in and take showers and get clean clothes, and we serve them a hot meal at the table every time that they're in our building. So a lot going on at Nashville First Church, but all of that to say that when I was working on determining what I was going to do my research in, I reached out to a friend of mine, and she is now one of the generals in our denomination. And I said, here are 3 issues I'm wanting to address. Which do you feel is the most pertinent to the church today? And she said, hands down, multicultural leadership. It's impacting the church tremendously. And that's because, we have great movement around the globe now. So people are relocating, refugees are being relocated. There's a lot of diversity, as we all know, here in Nashville. And so when cultures come together, where there's misunderstandings and all the things, there's challenges to leadership. And that's, obviously that's been my experience. I've been at this church now for 31 years, but on the leadership team here for 11 of those. So
fantastic. Hey, you mentioned a couple of things there, and I didn't want to stop. You were on a roll there. I was like, okay, she can jump into that. Okay, all right. Give the full credentials up in this thing this morning. Don't hold back anything. But so many touch points there. Obviously, the homeschooling, that was a pretty significant. That's clutch, because obviously you've done doctoral work, and I'm sure there's some people who are watching this are just like, man, I had this pull toward education, pull to be in the workforce, and I'm sure there was a lot of tensions and struggles in that, and yet you said, well, this is a significant time in my life for the development of my kids, and homeschool, but then also passions relationship to the local church and being involved in the local church, but not just involved in the local church. You guys are actually involved in the community. And I got finished watching the service that you guys had the other day related to Pentecost, and seeing all those different nations that you were talking about in your congregation presenting from their own language, from their own culture, different expressions of the body of Christ and different expressions of the gospel and in the kingdom. And so that was a beautiful thing to see. You are immersed, as it were, in sort of this multicultural leadership, but also multicultural living, multicultural expressions at First Naz. And just, talk to us a little bit about how we transition from that passion and those things to forming something called the Justice Circle. What is that?
Oh, yeah. So, yes, so much to tell. Let me say this.
Okay, say it.
Have not, just processing. This is a journey. It's a journey. And anyone who is involved in it at whatever level, whether it's friendships, or it's in your organization or corporation where you work, engaging with, people at school, work, whatever, through the community, pressing in to getting to know and making space in your life, getting to know someone who is other than you, who has a different perspective than you, a different understanding, a different reality, all of those things, is complicated and challenging. And it requires a great deal of hospitality, humility, willingness to allow yourself to grow, willingness to give space for someone different than you to speak into your life. I don't know if it's an American kind of mentality that we want to be on the winning team. I want to be on the political party whose person wins, or I want to be a part of this.
We want to be the best.
Yes. And so
we are the best, right?
And people will, shift things, shift stance and et cetera, affiliations to be on the winning team, if you will. And I think as Christians, we come at this so differently, because our hope, in a sense, and this sounds tacky, is that everybody wins. I am my brother's keeper. I am responsible for how I interrelate with other
Uh-oh. Some mic drops about to go on right here. Go ahead. Keep going.
people. Yeah. So anyway, so in the journey with our multicultural congregations, all the things that we've been learning, obviously, because they are refugees, they're coming from a whole different context, being brought to the United States and put into our system, a system they don't understand, a language they don't understand, a culture they don't understand, all the challenges that go with that. The government does the best that they can with what they have and can do to help them when they come over here, but it's a system. It's a system, and it's easy to just put them in that system and let the system push them along, rather than understanding the depth of some of these people, the skill and all the things.
You're getting some good points here. You're powering it up. You're powering the show up as we speak.
Yes. So, as I've learned, gotten to know these, the different ones who engage there at Nashville First Church, my heart has just reached out and just, been moved by them, thinking, a lot of them are put in the Tyson chicken packing plant, or, the pepperoni packing plant, or whatever, which, I'm not downing the fact. I'm thankful that
you like chicken.
Yeah,
yes, we're not against chicken on the show.
No, not at all.
If you make chicken, especially Chick-fil-A, we're for you on this show.
Yeah, with extra dill pickle on it, right?
Good taste.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, all the things. So a year and a half ago now, January of 2020, I shifted into a new role here at the church and I serve as the congregational life pastor. So I oversee adult ministry, all the things that means. And then the other hat I wear is I serve as the COO of our 510 Foundation. We have a lot of urban outreach ministry going out under that umbrella, if you will, and was compelled in 2020, along with you and several others, to form the Justice Circle in Nashville, because just recognizing that this issue is so large, and there's so many organizations doing outstanding work addressing the issues in our city. And we work we collaborate with a lot of these organizations at some level.
Okay, before we get there, hang on a second, because we're there now, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. But from my perspective of that, I just wanted to give, kind of my take on that. There was a mutual friend of ours that kind of knew what you were doing and knew some of the initiatives that you had been involved in, and urban outreach and the context in which you were serving. And he said, "Hey, you should get in contact with this guy named Erskin, because he seems to be talking about this stuff, and you seem to be talking about this stuff, and maybe there's a partnership there." And so you got in contact with me, reached out, and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, everybody at that particular time, especially, wants to find somebody that's Black so they can talk to them about, justice and what's going on here. And I wasn't really all that interested in being necessarily a part of this massive movement, collaborative justice, and all these different things. And, it took several, I guess, conversations in particular, just understanding your heart and understanding that this wasn't just like some side hobby of yours. This wasn't just some, thing that you were addendum to a otherwise packed schedule, but that you were actually passionate about it. You actually lived the life. And so beyond that, you were the type of person who I would say, once you have talked and said what you need to say, there's going to be some definite action steps that begin to take place. And that was really one of the things that impressed me, is that, hey, let's go. Like, we can't be sitting around talking about stuff. We need to actually do something. And so as we started to have a lot of those conversations that generated themselves into what we now call the Justice Circle, that was a unique experience and a good launch pad and ramp up to what we have going today.
Yes. And you had a lot to do with forming that through our conversations. And
through... Oh, did I now?
Yes, you did, brother.
This is new information for me. All right, here we go.
Yes,
hey,
yes, you did.
you heard it here.
Yes. But
Who knew?
lots of conversations. You and I had lots of conversations.
We didn't have lots of conversations. We just had long conversations.
We had
There's
long ones.
a,
We always have
there's a
long ones.
difference.
So I hope
We only had
you're
about
in
3 or
for a
4
good long-
conversations, but they lasted 2.5 hours at a time.
Yes, they did. They did. Yes, for sure. But you know what? And I remember in those early days, even just talking through it and saying to you, this problem feels so large that I feel like anything that we do is such a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But what I've learned over time is that those drops add up. And
Yes, they do.
They do. And part of, even though the issues, and we are addressing, policing, and we're addressing education.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about what the foundation looks like. I mean, what does the Justice Circle Nashville look like? What's our focus? What's our emphasis?
Yes. So
I mean, I could address that, but I mean, you're here.
Oh, well, you're here, brother. Yes, we are. We're grassroots organization. We are reaching into the community and working alongside residents, community leaders, government leaders, nonprofits, and we are addressing 3 distinct pillars, which are policing and community safety and education, particularly focusing on the school to prison pipeline. The things that we can identify and that are data driven to show us that in these unique situations, children's odds aren't looking good as far as the trajectory of their life. They are headed
Yeah.
prison system. And what is it that we can do to create intervention in their life and change that trajectory? And then the final pillar we're addressing is healthcare. And that's both access to it as well as minorities working within the healthcare system. So
Speaking of healthcare, I know one of the discussions that we had was about making sure that people were aware of all the sites where they can get vaccinations and different things like that, because traditionally there tends to be a disparity in lower income and sometimes African American communities related to access to healthcare. Man, my arm is sore. I got my 2nd dose. I'm about to be all vaxxed up here. Not even working. Are you vaccine? Are you good to go?
I have not gotten the vaccine yet.
Oh, look at that. She did a fake out. She's like, okay, go over there and get a vaccine. I ain't getting it.
No, I have not yet.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you where you can go. If that's something that you should choose. Perhaps you're not doing that. And that's okay if you're not doing that. I just want you to know I did that.
Yes.
And my arm is sore.
Very good. Yes. Likely we will. We just have not yet.
Yeah. So, and that's a controversial hot button issue, but we talk about everything on this show. Hey, let me throw you a couple of non-softballs here for just a few minutes, because I don't want to keep you on here all day long. As I said before, we'll be about 40 minutes here. So let me 10 more minutes, I think. And yeah, I don't want to take up all your time, but let me throw you a little bit faster balls coming at you. You are a advocate for justice here in Nashville, and that means so many things to so many different people. Your orientation is Caucasian. You are a female. How have you been received by people as you've had these conversations? And people are, in particular, I have been to some Black Lives Matter rallies and some different things where they pretty much come out and say, man, this is a Black people thing, man. All you white people here, we don't necessarily need your contribution here. This is like kind of for us, by us. And so they kind of like snatch the mic, and it's kind of like, hey, this is Black people's issues. Black people, Black Lives Matter, and different things like that. Not to just call them out, but there is this sort of animus in our city that's just like, hey, white people, we got this. We don't necessarily need your contribution, or we don't necessarily appreciate your contribution in the discussion of justice. How have you been received when you begin addressing all these issues from the vantage point that you have as a Caucasian female in today's culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's been mixed, Erskin, honestly.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's been mixed. And I've heard, individuals who are very active, and, I know because the skin color that I have is white, you would call white. Very freckled, but white.
Kind of pinkish.
Yes, pinkish, whitish, freckly-ish. That, you know, I don't understand and I'm not a part of, and what do I, and, you know, how can I understand all day long? You know, my context is not that of a Black woman, but nonetheless a woman. And there is some understanding in being female with some issues that oppressed groups have experienced. And so I use that in these relationships and conversations to understand, from what I have experienced throughout my life, to understand what it feels like to be pushed down, what it feels like to be set to the side because of something that I have no control over, which is my gender.
Right.
So, yeah.
Another follow-up question to that, and that's, if you guys don't know, like Sabrina and I have had conversations before. She's only telling a little bit of the story here for the sake of time and for the sake of the platform, but she's extremely gracious when she meets those people who are opposed to what it is that she's doing, and those that don't get and don't want to get what it is that, you know, she's involved in. Extremely gracious in responding to people. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're like, there's any like, just kind of, that's on me because of the way that I'm saying things, because she is extremely gracious, and you'll get that from all of her comments. But I want to kind of dig in a little bit more in this conversation and just simply say that, do you feel like, as a Caucasian female, because you have pushback from those who are saying, well, you just don't understand. You don't understand the Black perspective because you're not Black. You don't understand the Black female perspective because you're not a Black female. And so therefore you just need to kind of sit in the back of the room and shut up and be quiet. Do you feel like you need to apologize to anybody for anything? What is, because there's a general motif that's going on. It's like, white people, we constantly need you guys to apologize to us. Come on, say you're sorry. Say you're sorry. The whole slavery thing, systemic injustice, keep saying you're sorry until we feel like you're still not going to be able to do enough because you're just sorry.
Oh,
do you feel like you have to keep apologizing for things, or like excusing yourself to the back of the room? How do you feel?
You know what, Erskin, that's a loaded question, obviously.
Obviously.
But as many times as it would be necessary, I would apologize. The thing of it is the way that I see this is that, you know, I personally have never enslaved a person, beat a person, all the things, oppressed a person individually. But as a white person, you know, there's this sort of corporate collective sense of heritage and all of that I believe owes an apology and needs to be accountable for behavior. And so from that standpoint,
see how gracious she is. See, people, see how gracious she is. I'm coming with the other perspective. Go ahead, finish. I'm gonna challenge that.
Yeah, and because, you know, what is the scripture tells us, we're to forgive 70 times 7, you know, and, you know, I think maintaining a posture of humility in this, you know, for me to come out and say, look, I never owned a slave. This is not my problem. And come at it that way, which I've heard people do.
Oh yeah, that's out there.
I cannot agree. I don't agree with that perspective at all. You know, we together, and this is what you and I've had these conversations about. At some point, a white woman, a white man, a Black, an Asian, African, you know, all Chinese, we need to all start somewhere and push forward, push into our destiny of greater unity and greater collaboration and greater compassion for one another and understanding, and not this we're better than you mentality. You know, one of the things that was a surprise to me in my doctoral work, there was a gentleman whose name is Bernard Morris Bass. And he challenged Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need. And we all know Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? You know,
We all know it.
yes.
In fact, my show quizzes on that regularly, so we know it really well.
Yes. Food and shelter, safety, social needs, egocentric needs, and self-actualization. So the way Maslow was telling us, the highest thing you could achieve, the highest thing you should aspire to is understanding yourself and growing and being better, the better you. And what Bass challenged him with is to say, no, that is not our highest need. What our highest need is to understand that we were created with a need to connect with other people. And that is our highest need.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's scriptural. And I believe that it's the call of the church. It's the call of Christians to have a sense of unifying and understanding.
Ooh.
We are our brother's keeper. I am accountable for how I treat, respond to, act, speak to, whatever, my neighbor, whoever that, happens to be in any moment. And so
that got Trinitarian and parachoretic awfully quickly there. Good doctor.
Yeah, we are.
She's like, what the heck did you just say? the whole community aspect in the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit existing, being created in the image of God, created for community. I just want to unpack that real quick. So people are like, what the heck did he just say?
Yes, that the paraclete, that word means, the way that I've heard that translated, I loved it, was called the holy dance. Like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All
write that down.
In the holy dance. And I think, yes. And we are called to that as the church, individually, in our families. Families are getting it wrong in some, statistics. And I'm thinking, how I treat you matters. And, our culture in the United States of America is considered to be an individualistic culture. Which means I'm at the top of the concern. Me. Don't tread on me.
Woo! She said, don't tread on me. Watch out now.
And that is not scriptural. The way that when I interrelate with our Haitians and our Africans and our Hispanic cultures in our church, their cultures are predominantly collectivist cultures. And so what's more paramount,
refreshingly collective.
Yes.
Hospitably collective.
So much to tell you in that. Don't have time for all of it. But it matters more to them what decision they're making that's going to affect the larger group. And to their detriment, they will choose the better thing for the larger group. An American, our tendency is, screw you.
If I can't get my way, we'll burn the whole thing down.
Yeah, it's about me anyway. And it's how I see it. And we even see that inside the church. There's not people willing to make the sacrifice for the greater good of the body of the church. But this is how I see it. I don't like your perspective. I don't like the way you're doing that. So this is what I'm going to do in response to that, rather than thinking, what is the healthiest thing or healthiest way for me to respond to the situation for the sake of the entire body of Christ, in a particular church or what have you. But anyway, there's so much in all of that. I was
going to say one more quick question. Folks, the comment section is turned on, just so you guys know that you can make some comments for Sabrina here to see. But really quickly, I had one more quick thing, and it maybe is not such a quick thing. I know this is only a drop in the bucket of conversations that we've had and larger conversations that people are having, but I wanted people to be exposed to you so they can know that the 510 Foundation exists, this urban outreach ministry, Justice Circle Nashville. Like, we're actually doing stuff. Like, Sabrina lives in Nashville. We want to make Nashville a greater and stronger place. And I don't know, it sounds like somebody is typing over there. Is that you? Oh.
No, I don't know what that is. Sounds like static on my side. I don't know.
Somebody is typing an essay, working on their homework in the middle of my show. But I just simply say this, we are, as Christians, living the life that God has given us in real time and in real space. And you see Erskin music and you see all these different things and it scrolls across your screen. But at the end of the day, like we roll up our sleeves and we start to get to work. And these homeless people that they're feeding, that come up to their churches, they give them a bath and a shower. Don't you know there's people who complain about that and say, well, we don't always want all these homeless people hanging around their building because they're hanging around my house. And yeah, I mean, maybe there's some safety concerns and some issues that are there. They address those. But at the same time, they're trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And so that's commendable. But one more thing, I got to ask you this because I know that there are people who are watching who are just like, So as a white person, do you feel like there's ever a time, and I know you're extremely gracious, do you feel like there's ever a time for you to clap back a little bit and say, look, you're criticizing all these people for a system that maintains and inherits wealth and distributes that wealth. Some of that wealth has been used for the advancement of minority communities in these specific ways. And so, yeah, although all of that wealth may not have been used in a way that is advantageous for those communities, sometimes the accumulation of and having those wealth in the hands of actual people who are concerned and care about people has been to the supreme advancement of minority communities. In fact, your church, your foundation, and things that you're involved in has been a case in point example of that. If you didn't have that wealth and the opportunity to leverage it the way that you have, you wouldn't be able to do the things that you have. And so instead of always apologizing constantly for the fact that, oh, I'm sorry I have wealth, oh, I'm sorry I'm white, oh, I'm sorry that, is there ever a time for you to clap back and say, you know what, because of this, you now have this, and because of this, now you have access to this? Or is that inappropriate? Help me out.
No, yeah. So I believe that actions speak louder than words. And so, and words are powerful. They can bring life, the scriptures tell us, and they can bring death. And so I believe that to address that issue that you're talking about, how I live and how I engage the oppressed communities, and we work with children who have been trafficked. The ministries are just, that we are touching at some level are vast. And let me say this.
Say it.
When I started working years ago.
You don't need me.
All right. Oh, he dropped off. I don't know if I'm the only one on here.
I wanted you to be the only one on here. Say it.
Let me keep going. And maybe Erskin will hop back on.
No, the reason why I came off is because I wanted you to have the full screen yourself.
Oh, I got you.
It's your show now. I've given over the control of the show. It's now the Sabrina Jones music show.
No. Okay. When I began working at the church, one of the projects I was given was to start an upward basketball program in East Nashville. And it grew very quickly and had a lot of the children from the community. And we had an unfortunate situation that was connected with one of the families. And I won't go into the details. Some of you may know the story, but there was a shooting. There was a boy who was paralyzed from a shooting. And I became very active in his life immediately. Now, he was not one of the children of the Upward Basketball program, but he was a family member of one. So anyway, a lot of things going on with that. And that put me in contact with someone in Nashville whose story is powerful. Grew up in Casey Place, was trafficked, ended up with a son who was in the gangs and was murdered and all of the things. So I'm sitting at the table and I'm speaking with this lady. And I'm telling her about our story. And I'm using language like, I said, here I am, a white woman, and at the time in my mid-40s, I said, and I'm feeling compelled to go to Vanderbilt to see this boy who is a member of a gang, to minister to him. And I'm thinking, what in heaven's name does a middle-aged white woman have anything to do to relate with this boy? Well, she quickly corrected me. And she's an African-American lady who's older than I am. And she said, "You're wrong." She said, "I want you to understand that when these little children, or when this young teenage boy sees you, they're not seeing the color of your skin with the way that you're reaching into their lives." She said, "They're seeing someone who cares and someone who shows up. That's what they're seeing. And it's more powerful than the color of your skin." And when she told me that, it's totally changed how I have felt about leading the ministries that I lead here in East Nashville area, because there are some who see me and they see my white skin. And that's okay. I mean, I see you and I see your brownish skin, whatever.
Brownish.
But if they can
Overexposed light on my right side here.
I know, I'm like, you got a nice shade of brown. Anyway,
This is not Q. This is just
yeah,
the light out of my face.
a light on your face. When we can stop allowing those things to divide us, but see them as, God's array of beauty in the way that we're so uniquely made and created by a Heavenly Father who created humanity in all the different ways that he did to make us interesting, to make us unique. Yeah. We each have even our own thumbprint, and every one of us bleed red. Every one of us experience the emotions we do. Every one of us, desire relationship and purpose and, all those things. And if we can press past the ways that we misunderstand and want to be different and want to divide one another into groupings and tribes, it's sort of that historical thing about us that we just want to be, of a unique grouping, I guess, and understand we were created. And I believe this is true for the church across denominations. The Church of Jesus Christ, it has been created through the power of the Holy Spirit to unite. And we're created to unite across culture. Of the eternal kingdom and for the sake of his glory. So.
Okay, Sabrina, I think
yes.
Your audio is breaking up a little bit. I've been trying to work on the audio.
Okay.
But you have answered well. And since we have taken up our time, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
And I'm going to say nice things about you when you leave, but I don't want to say them when you're here because then you get the big head.
You're so funny, Erskin. Well, thank you for having me on this show. And for those of you out there who have never met Erskin face to face, person to person, he is the real deal. He's on a journey like the rest of us.
Okay, your payment will be in the mail. We'll PayPal you later on. Okay. Enough of that silliness.
Okay.
You have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Erskin.
We'll talk to you later.
All
we got some business for the Justice Circle to get established here. Don't we have a meeting today?
Yes, we do, brother. 12:30. Don't be late.
Okay. See ya. Bye-bye. Whoops. Forgot about that meeting. But now I've been reminded of that meeting, so I will be there. Okay. We can do this. All right. So much thanks. Much love. Come on, Dolphins. That's fast, Dolphins. Much love to Sabrina for coming on the show. We live in an era of cancel culture, so anything you can and do say will be used against you. Anything you don't say will be used against you. Anything people think you should have said but didn't say will be used against you. And any expression you had on your face while you were saying it, if they don't like it, that can be used against you as well. So for it to be a cancel culture and Sabrina to just come in, I started with a couple of softballs. Okay, we good. And then I just went, hey, You a white woman, come speak to us about whiteness and how white people are being attacked and black people are being attacked. And we're just, so I wanted to, give you guys that assurance that the Erskin Music Show is going to represent. There'll be people from all different vantage points who don't like something that I'm going to say or some attitude or something that I do and or say. But I would say by and large, I'm not Machiavellian on this show, but I think there's going to be a broader consensus than there are those fringe people who just, absolutely hate the show. If you absolutely hate the show, then don't watch the show. Viewership is not that strong anyway. I'm not twisting your arm behind your back, but I'm going to ask some difficult and challenging questions because let me speak now. I keep changing. I don't have my beatbox, but I have the dolphins. Real quick before I get off the show, we need to take a good look at ourselves as the Church of Jesus Christ and really challenge ourselves. If I have a brother or sister who I believe is being treated harshly, unfairly, unjustly, if you will, then it is my obligation not to just sit back and say, man, that's bad for them. I'm going to pray for you. But if I have the opportunity to intervene and roll up my sleeves and say, no, I'm gonna help my brother and sister out, then I'm gonna do that. And yes, there have been some situations in the past where our white brothers and sisters didn't do that for their black and minority and brown counterparts when they saw injustice that was taking place. But the reason why we're where we're at today is because there were many who did, and they rolled up their sleeves and they got to work. And the history of Christianity in America is one that is checkered. But if we're going to tell the story, let's tell all of the story. Yes, there have been some egregious errors that have taken place in regards to bravery and courage and people speaking up and courage. And so when I see people who come at Sabrina, you don't know what she's been through. You don't know where she's more African than most of the African Americans in our country. You don't know her life. You don't know her story. You don't know her circumstance. So to come at her is like, oh, you're white, and oh, you don't have anything to say, and oh, you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation. Man, get that corn out of my face. I ain't going to listen to that. And so I think it's an important time for Black Americans, Black Christians, minority Christians who are out there to speak up on behalf of maybe our white brothers and sisters who are being mistreated. And I know what you're saying. Well, there's 400 years and slavery and all these different things. Look, you're alive right now, and you have an opportunity right now to do something about what's going on there. And so, if you see something that's wrong, be honest, speak up, be truthful, and help people out. That's all I'm saying. So we got to cut that thing both ways. Yes, there's been some egregious things that have happened in America. Slavery, terrible. Jim Crow, terrible. Redlining, terrible. Systemic injustice, terrible. But you know what? Not as terrible as it could be if there weren't Christians who were in the society. So let's just call a spade a spade. Folks that are out there advocating for all these different things and sometimes a part of the culture who are speaking out, they don't actually really do anything. They're just speaking out from their privilege and from their wealth, but they don't actually get their hands dirty and actually do things. And we'll talk about how I know that on other episodes. But this has been the Erskin Music Show. I see a lot of your comments that are there. Apparently I was breaking up. There's been some slippage in the quality of the show. And so I'm going to go and address that right now. I'm going to go discipline our router and make sure that I put our router in timeout, because you got to give the people what they need for this show. So this has been the Erskin Music Show. I'm giving you guys my outro. We'll be back. Okay, so here's the tease for Saturday. You'll want to come on Saturday because I'm getting a bunch of people to come on the show. We can have up to 10 people at a time. We won't have 10 people because that would be chaos. But we're going to have a flash mob on Saturday of people who are coming in and they're answering the question, what do we need to do to fix things in America and move things forward? I've asked the question several different ways, and there's no perfect way for me to ask that question. But there's some people who say, well, if we just could get in control of fatherlessness in our homes, then we would be able to do a better job. If we could just do a better job of, understanding the police incarceration issue, we do a better job of education. If we could do a better job of whatever the answers are that are out there, there's going to be people who represent some of those perspectives and maybe none of those perspectives. But we're going to ask them really quickly to give an answer to that question. And then we're going to press forward in the show and evaluate things that are being said on there. And it should be a really good show, really exciting show, a really chaotic show on Saturday. So you'll want to tune in. That's going to be 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Shortly after that, we're going to start having guests that show up and we're going to make it merry. Like Augustine was telling the lady about prayer, we're going to pray for a happy life. And so that's my prayer for you, is that you would have a happy life, not because you can be happy, but because of your happiness in God, you will then impact others to the third and fourth generation around you, should the Lord tarry. God bless. This has been the Erskin Music Show. A little bit of music, a lot of bit of talk, but all the stuff can be found on YouTube and various streaming platforms. So as Sabrina was saying, if you don't know me and you've never met me in person, you might not want to after this show, but then you might want to. So you can book me, get in contact with me for various events, camps, conferences, retreats, concerts, all the nine, and hope to see you soon. God bless. Erskin Music Show.